I'm recording and I didn't even realize it. Welcome. It's good to be back on John's Gospel. And yeah, we're looking at this time, aren't we, with the disciples? And Jesus is talking to the disciples. He's laying things out to the disciples. And the study we're on, John 16. I just want to remind us really that disciples are in this incredible time of transition, a really difficult time of transition. You think the world as they knew it is changing. Yeah, it's a world where they're to put it better, they're protected and in the comfort of Jesus. They're with Jesus. He's leading the way. He's been moving in extraordinary signs and wonders. In one way, though, it was often a very challenging environment. I'm sure it was also a very secure environment. They knew where they were at. They knew who they belonged to. That they had their little tiffs among each other, but it was a safe, secure environment. And what is going on is they're being thrust into this transition. And I think for us, if we can understand that in transition, the world can just feel upside down all over the place. We can be in a place where we're not sure where we're at. We're not sure who we belong to, who we belong with. But transitions in life are really, really important times. And it doesn't mean the end of things. Transition in God is about opening up doorways, opening up into new situations, new days. And here, the disciples are facing the grief of transition. You see, in that moment when you're in transitions, whatever they are, it can be really difficult to know what is the other side and you see what is familiar breaking down. But at that point, there's not necessarily an understanding of what life will look like, the next stage. Transitions in life can be job changes, loss of jobs. It can be, you know, it can be having children leaving home, all sorts of things. And not all transitions contain grief, but they they do contain change. Even having a baby can contain grief because maybe you know one of the partners has been working and is now at home looking after children. There's this shift that goes on, and it can be difficult to get hold of meaning and purpose in the shift. And so the disciples here, there's grief because Jesus is going, and that grief will overshadow things to a level that, even though, as we heard, last time, Jesus is speaking so they don't fall away. What is falling away is their protection, is that immediate comfort. And into that, Jesus is speaking to them. And I'm sure it was really challenging and difficult for them to get hold of. He's saying, I tell you the truth, it's good that I'm going away. Now, when you have something that is good, it, it, it must be really difficult to believe that changing is good. Yeah, so Jesus is saying, hey, I'm going to the Father and you'll see me no more. He's saying, that's good because if I go, the advocate's coming. And if I don't go, he won't come. But if I go, I can send him. So at that point, the disciples have to believe that the Holy Spirit and the presence of the Holy Spirit with them is actually better than Jesus physically being with them. They have to get hold of having the Holy Spirit in them who's unseen is more magnificent than the journey they've been on for 3 years, where they can look with their natural eye and see Jesus is there and feel secure. They're in the boat's sinking. They look to Jesus, they can see him. They're now having to draw in on a resource that's within them of the Holy Spirit to not just receive what they had when Jesus was with them in a physical form, but as Jesus puts it, he says, this is a greater place for you all to be in. Yeah, even if it's just on one level, that Jesus is in one place, the Holy Spirit is in many. Yeah, and Jesus is trying to lift them out of their grief. Or maybe he's not trying to lift them out of the grief. Maybe he's giving them a layer of understanding that as they poke their heads through the grief, they can start to believe there's something more to walk into. That what he's saying is about keeping them in a place that they don't fall away even when they run away. They don't lose that connection with Jesus, with the Father. And then they can see and start to piece together after his death and his resurrection that there's something greater that's on the way. And these are the building blocks that in Acts that they were willing to wait. Basically what was 50 days waiting for power to come on high. They waited with a hope and a belief and an understanding that something greater was on the way. And I think if we can grasp hold of that in transition, small transitions, big transitions, that we're not losing our trust in God, but at times just knowing there is a better day. And if you're in the middle of transition, if you're in the middle of pain and grief, in hurt, in a place where you don't know and don't understand what's going on, I pray for you today that by the Holy Spirit, that you'll find a security in the Father, a security in the love of the Father, a security in the grace of the Father, that you're able to step forward, even in the middle of transition, with a confidence that the Father's going to open up new and better things for you. That actually your history brings you to a place for the doorways of the new day. And so when the Holy Spirit comes, and Jesus is just laying this out a little bit for the disciples, he says when he comes, he's going to be bringing some things to earth. Now remember, what he brings comes with the Father's love. This isn't to bring despair and destruction. This is to bring life and heavenly impact. So he'll prove the world to be wrong about sin, righteousness, and judgment. So the Holy Spirit is, I don't quite like that translation, he's the convictor in regard to sin, righteousness, and judgment. So the sin, what he brings with that is that people become aware that they don't believe that Jesus, he came, he died for our sin. Now, I'm not going to unpack all that, but just to recognize that the Holy Spirit brings conviction of sin, not just to the believer, but to the unbeliever. And it's the conviction of sin which is part of the journey to salvation. Now, it's interesting about righteousness because we can sometimes put righteousness in the same category as sin. It's like you're either sin or you're righteous. But there's a realm about righteousness that's not have you done right and wrong, but is the gift of God that makes us righteous even in the midst of sin and mistakes. So about righteousness, because I'm going to the Father where you'll see me no more. The Holy Spirit comes to uncover the righteousness that is revealed because we can't see Jesus, because he's with the Father and because righteousness is poured out. And judgment, the Holy Spirit comes to bring judgment on who? The prince of the world, who is condemned. Judgment is the separation of right and wrong. It's that ability to separate out right and wrong. So the Holy Spirit comes to bring us an ability to separate out right and wrong in our lives. And that, we can walk better with him day by day. And for those that don't know him, that they can find him. So then Jesus says, I have much more to say, but you can't bear it now. In other words, grief, and the pain that they're in is covering up their ability to understand. Now, I'm going to stop there because I want to pick up next time in verse 13. So if we can grab that about transition and carry it in us when we face transition in our lives, and I'm sure it will help us not just today when you may not be in transition, but at different stages of life. Bless you. Thank you for being with me again today. If you're watching this on Thursday, have a great weekend. Enjoy the sun while it's shining. Bless you. Bye for now.